All right, let's call to order Safety and Public Works meeting, Brainerd, Minnesota. It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. We have 8 items on tonight's agenda. First item is approval of a event street closure application for the fire department open house. And I believe this is Public Works Director Jesse Dean. Are you speaking from up there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached is an event application for the annual fire department open house to take place on Thursday, October 12th from 5 to 7. They're requesting to close East River Road between the fire and police departments from 4 to 8. Restrooms and electrical would be supplied by the fire department, and waste partners would be contracted for trash. Staff is recommending approval under the condition they request traffic control materials 1 week prior to the event.
Excellent. So no real changes from years past.
Correct.
Any questions?
Yeah, I don't know how many people attend these, but how much trash is accumulated for a 4-hour event? Or is it 4? I forgot.
It's a 2-hour event. They're asking for the closure for 4.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of people that do come out for
Yep.
it, but it's,
It does get pretty busy. They give out free hot dogs and popcorn and stuff.
I just
so
thought
that's probably
if
where the trash
the
is.
city is paying for or the fire department is paying for waste partners, it seems like it'd be easy to, but if they think that's necessary, I won't argue.
I think it's, I don't know, I don't think it's a dumpster. I think it's more like extra bins for the night.
Okay. I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, we have another event street closure application for the Armed Forces Tribute Event. And I believe this is Mr. Dean again. Go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached is an event application for the Armed Forces Tribute Event to take place in the Crow Wing County Courthouse parking lot and the All Veterans Memorial. Included in the event will be a hot air balloon display. The event is planned for Friday, September 15th from 1 to 2:15 p.m. They're requesting to have the parking stalls adjacent to the west side of South 4th Street by the courthouse lot and on the south side of Laurel Street adjacent to the All Veterans Memorial closed down for the event. Staff is recommending approval under the condition they request the traffic control materials 1 week prior to the event.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. I don't recall this one in the past, though. This is a new event?
I believe it's a new event.
Okay. You guys have any questions about it?
No, move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 3, we have approval of final pay request for the improvement 23-02 crack ceiling. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is requesting approval of the only and final pay request for the crack ceiling work for the 2023 project. The contractor had some additional footage completed compared to the original contract. We still have some crack ceiling material left. In typical years, we have had the contractor continue the work until the material is gone. However, considering the higher than expected bid price for the work, we chose not to have the contractor continue beyond what had already been completed. The final requested amount is for $25,200, which is $432.10 over the original bid amount. So staff is recommending approval of the final pay request for the crack ceiling contract.
Thank you, Jesse. Do you know about how much of that is left over that we could add on for next year, possibly?
Not offhand.
Not offhand exactly how much.
There's not going to be a whole bunch, but we'll be able to utilize it most likely next year as long as the material
Okay,
stays.
it will last the winter. Excellent.
It does stay usable over the course of several months?
Yeah, we'll keep it through in our storage facility, not the cold storage, in the tempered storage areas.
All right.
Move to approve this change order.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to number 4, we have an interesting review of a request from BNSF for the South 4th Street crossing improvements. And Mr. Dean, if you want to walk us through this one and how this one came up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached to the item is an email request from BNSF to the city to partner with the railroad on completing a crossing improvement project at South 4th Street in 2024. They're requesting roughly half of the cost of the improvement, which comes out to about $104,000. as well as traffic control and patching by the city. While they indicate that crossings are generally the responsibility of the roadway authority, state statute 219.071 calls out that it is the primary responsibility of the owner of the railroad track to keep the grade crossing surfaces over public highways safe and passable. It does say that we, as the roadway authority, may contribute to the cost of the improvement. It says that in the statute. So one option that the council could consider is this as a request as an exchange of sorts for partnership on other items that the city has requested from BNSF in the past. Some of those items include, purchasing the railroad property between 11th and 13th Streets, a possible new crossing for a potential Laurel Street extension, sidewalk crossing on 13th, and replacement of the chain link fence adjacent to Washington Street. So staff is just requesting direction from the council on the response to BNSF for participation in the South Fourth crossing improvements.
Excellent. I think a partnership with BNSF would be great. This is a little confusing based on the statute that you mentioned, and they are saying that, what does it say? Although public roadway crossings are generally the responsibility of the road authority, I think we have, and then it moves on to say BNSF will be willing to partner with the city of Portland to replace the aforementioned crossing budget year 2024. So I'm guessing with that typo there, they're asking a lot of cities to do this. Maybe different states have different statutes. I'm not sure. But I would love to chip in if we can start a partnership and get some things going in the right direction, because the railroad has been a stop for connecting downtown with the NP shops, for one, as you have listed on here, between 11th and 13th along Laurel Street. They've consistently said no to new crossings that we could definitely use, both pedestrian and auto crossings. And then with our improvements on Washington Street coming up in a few years, it would be nice to have some new screening along that industrial space. So if they're willing to play ball and make some exceptions to some of our needs in this town, I would push to definitely be on board to spend some money helping them do crossings wherever they want in the city. But until we have that agreement, I wouldn't approve the $104,000 that they're requesting right now.
Well, half of that, right?
No, half of it.
That is half?
Correct.
That is half.
That is half, okay.
That's what they indicated was the approximate cost is half at 100, so it'd be about $200 per, or $2,000 per foot for the total cost.
Okay, what would be the city's responsibility on this if we contribute to the crossing? I'm confused. Is it 104,000 or half of 104,000?
It'd be 104,000.
104,000.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Tell me about 11th to 13th on Laurel. What is that? I'm not.
It
quite-
is the, basically, there's a spike there that used to be the start of an old line that would leave town to the south. Most of that's turned into a trail now, and then south of town, it's actually more of a four-wheeler trail.
So what would we want to do there? Just,
If you could connect one block of Laurel onto the next block of Laurel, there's almost a dip there it's got a worn path from pedestrian use, from bikes, from people walking. But if you could connect it via sidewalk and road over that spike of railroad, it would just add connectivity for two of our shopping areas.
so essentially we want to extend Laurel Street from 11th to 13th.
It would only have to be to 12th.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh,
There's
right,
still a
okay, it
block
turns,
there.
okay.
So I think the area there is owned still by the railroad, is what staff was mentioning, buying that property or purchasing that property between 11.
So how do you foresee moving forward on this? Just put in the request for all of these things, see if they bite on any
Well-
of them, or, I mean, what?
I think just show our stance on what a partnership might look like.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got to say, we're much more diplomatic. My first thought involved some four-letter words that I won't actually say in a council meeting, just because of the way our interactions with the railroad have been.
It has been tough.
I mean, I would like to see all of those things. I think that the sidewalk on 13th would be my number one priority, but, I mean, they're all very good things that we would like to get the railroad to agree to and play ball on.
So we just turn this over to Jesse to negotiate via a letter communication, email, or what? I mean, how do you see this happening?
I think that we could definitely direct that and use these talking points in that. But Mr. Mayor, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, kind of to Tiff's point here, what's listed here are 4 items that we have brought forth to them and basically been told in no uncertain terms, just no, get lost. So I have no problem with the concept of, hey, here's 4, or I would actually throw in some other things as well. Along Front Street, we have that property there that we've been interested in. Multiple properties along Front Street that we've been interested in. I would be interested in saying, here's a list of things that we've approached you about that we would like to partner on, and now it's interesting that you are now looking for partnerships.
Well, and the other thing is some developable land along Washington Street owned by the railroad that we've requested they mow multiple times a year, keep it under 6 inches as everyone else does. And they have told us that they would do that, and sometimes they would do and sometimes they don't. So add that to the list as well.
There might also be a strongly worded letter from the mayor involved here or something.
Well,
Well, partnerships are good. I like olive branches.
Well, what about the 104,000? That's part of the partnership too. How do we pay for that?
well, you simply could say no.
I know, but if we're gonna do a partnership, that's part of the deal. So we give them the 104,000 to help them and then say, oh, they say, oh, here, you can have this, this and that, but can we afford the 104,000? That wasn't anything we foreseen, is it?
Well, it would be a 2024 project, it sounds like, so.
I understand.
we'd have to talk about putting that in the budget,
Okay, all right.
whether it's capital improvements or otherwise, special projects. I'm not sure. Mr. Dean, any comments on that?
No, I think I got some good comments, and if the rest of the council feels equally, I think what we'll do is we'll just reach out and kind of, I guess, feel out BNSF and see what their interest level in forming up some sort of an agreement along those kinds of lines. And if they're interested in it, then we can talk with finance and see how we would fund the project and then drop some sort of a formal agreement.
Mr. Mayor?
Could you ask specifically if they know we're not Portland?
I
Is that
can't-
Oregon or Maine?
Maybe we don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Say.
They do say Brainerd in the second
They do.
paragraph.
They figured it out. There's a nice thing in Word you can do, word replace.
Maybe Portland's asking if they know.
I'd recommend
they're
that.
Portland and not Brainerd.
They could be asking if we're interested in Portland paying for it.
That would be a good deal for
We should
us.
contact Portland first. Okay. Do we don't need a motion then? We'll just explain at the, or what are you
It's
thinking?
up to you guys. If you want to make a motion, we'll take it.
Go ahead,
Otherwise-
Tiffany, make it.
I guess if you want, I will make a motion that we direct staff to add a few things to our list and explore a potential partnership.
Second,
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
got that on me.
Item number 5, we have authorization for staff to apply for the Minnesota DNR Relief Community Forestry Grant. And this is Public Works Director Dean. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the DNR is currently accepting applications for their Relief Community Forestry Grant Program. They're accepting grant requests up to a maximum of $500,000 with no grant match until September 18th. There are several different eligible activities, and James is going to be able to go over some of the stuff that staff has discussed as possible opportunities if the council would like to apply for the grant.
Thank you. So just to kind of step back, there was a grant from a few years ago that the city had received. It was an EAB management grant. So for the last couple of years, and it was included in this packet, city staff has been working on a tree inventory. So that tree inventory is probably about 97% complete. I think there's still maybe a few holes and some things to kind of clean up on it. But as part of this new grant here, which is exciting compared to the other grant, it gives us an opportunity not only to replace, say, healthy ash trees with something else, it actually allows you to infill in areas where there wasn't trees previous. So with that, kind of the very next step in this would be rewriting a tree policy to include the emerald ash borer potential to reach Brainerd, as well as revising the tree ordinance. That's something that staff had already recommended to work on in the winter here anyways. So it'd be the tree policy, reworking the ordinance, cleaning up the tree inventory, and then Public Works Director Dean and myself discussed areas where we see potential infill in some of our right-of-way areas. I did do a drive through the city as well. So areas that we're looking at is potentially College Drive, filling in some of the areas there. The North 8th median is a potential. Also part of Kingwood Street. That area that's kind of Kingwood Street as you're leading to the hospital there. Staff did see that that's pretty bare. And Kingwood Street being a TN2 district and wanting to see some redevelopment in there, I thought that would be a good opportunity to add some trees into that area. Part of Oak Street, the area that I see that has potential would be specifically from about 6th Street to about 9th or 10th, kind of some wider boulevard areas, and again, kind of lacking some trees in that spot. And then the east side of downtown as well. So those are the areas that we've really focused on. And speaking with Public Works Director Dean, there's only so much that, because there's essentially a management and care for a tree afterwards that's needed for watering. We have to document all this stuff as part of the grant. We figured that this was about the extent of how much we could do. So we're probably looking somewhere between 100 and 200 trees with that. So they'd be potted trees in that area. And then also part of it is looking at within that tree map that we've already done. We took a look at tree species, also the condition and the size of it. So if there are any ash trees that are in poor condition, those would be potentially be able to be removed by a contractor and then planted with something else. So we think that this would be a good grant to apply for, and is looking for authorization to apply for the Minnesota DNR Relief Community Forestry Grant Program for approximately $60,000.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Are any of these areas you described, you're looking at, like the median in 8th Street, this is not infringing in any way on Parks' responsibility, is it? Park Board or?
We specifically left the parks out in this one. We did a significant planting this past year in the parks, and then have another 25,000 slotted.
I'm asking, any of these areas where you're describing we would put trees, are they locations that the park would be responsible for determining if trees would go there or not? Park Department or Park Board?
No, sir, all these areas aren't specifically directed by the council.
Okay,
Boulevards and right-of-way.
yep, I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Mayor?
James, I just had a quick question about the photo that you showed here. Are the orange squares, and I apologize, Jeff,
I
for
know.
being visual. The orange squares, what are those exactly?
I believe those may be signage in there, so that layer may not have been turned off. But we did also do an inventory on some of our signs across the city.
Okay.
So it's the green ones are everything that would have been part of the tree inventory.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, Mayor, I was going to ask if I could see, what would I see if I could read that document?
So you would see about 4 billion green dots, and then roughly 25 orange squares.
And some
green
stars.
stars. which I
There
wanna
are some
put
stars
green
and a black dot too. So in all honesty, it says we have a lot of trees.
Okay.
And these are the only trees this would just be right-of-way public property trees.
Oh, there's more of that we're not showing. Okay.
So what is the difference between a star and a circle?
I'd have to look more into that.
Curves and points.
It's fair.
I'll say that $60,000, based on the amount of work that is mentioned here, seems almost low to me, based on, we budget $50,000 for trees a year. From what I knew, they were $1,000 a piece for when the government buys them. But you're saying we can do 100 to 200 trees included in this $60,000 grant?
And part of that is because they're potted trees.
Okay. We
So
don't
significantly less. I think maybe the number closer was 100, I think, than 200.
Well, if it's 200, I'm happier.
Oh, okay,
What we did a lot of planting this last year was like a lot of 2-inch ball and burlap. The grant specifically says you can't go any higher than a 20-gallon, and
Okay.
what we've been typically seeing is 15-gallon. Again, much smaller tree, and you get a pretty hefty discount.
Okay, that makes sense.
so when you say a potted tree, what other kinds of tree, I mean, it's in a pot, what's the difference price-wise?
The size of the pot, I believe.
Well, okay.
Yep, so you're typically looking like if you're to retail a potted tree, maybe $150 to $200 versus a balled and burlap tree that they tree spade out and then they wrap it in burlap, you're looking at probably $500 to $800 per tree.
Okay, thank you.
That's just material cost.
And then installation as well. Okay. Okay, now this is great. I think as long as this goes in with, I know we talked about changing the way we take care of these. I think this is actually gonna fit right in with that perfectly with what we talked about last year, or earlier this year, for doing next year. Is that kind of the goal
Yep,
here?
yep.
Okay.
And I do think the number is probably closer to 100. We had a couple numbers that were bouncing off earlier. I think it was more in the 75 to 100 range.
And is this something we can apply for annually?
So this one, I believe, is a 3-year grant, and I think because of Emerald Ash Borer and the concern through especially the greater Minnesota area, there'll be more grants available in the future as well.
Okay.
So, I guess, one more question. What can we do to prepare so that we can request more than 60,000 and get even more trees next time?
The next thing is really that management plan. What do we want to do as a city? Do we want to inject or do we want to replace is going to be kind of the big thing. Some of our parks have a lot of ash trees in it, so we've already had kind of initial discussions with the Parks Department and how we want to do that. So that's going to be a big consideration for Parks and Council, and then from there, we'll have a better idea on, kind of moving forward for some of these grants and what we want to do.
Is there a risk for applying for, say, 100,000 instead of the 60,000?
Maybe Jesse can answer that one.
No, not really. I mean, they're gonna want to see you spend the money that you're getting, but we can refine that number and make sure that we have an appropriate number for what we're kind of scoping. I think we also just want a general direction from the council on kind of what we are scoping for a grant application, but we can refine the number once we get a better idea of how many trees. Because if the council only wanted to do maybe half of those streets, that would obviously make a difference in the number that we would ask for.
I'd push to do as many as we can in a year.
As a council, we love trees.
Yeah, we're a tree-loving council.
As long as they don't hit me in the face on marking those sidewalks, which we gotta take care of in the front of the building, by the way. I got clipped pretty bad in the eye.
You got
Out here
it.
out here on Laurel Street, can we get that cut back?
Did you really?
I did.
Oh,
I was following the edge of the
Check that out tomorrow.
sidewalk, and I'll take you through there. I'll
Yeah.
not punch, take your eye out.
all right. Do we want a specific number on that 60,000, or do we want to leave that out so that you guys can kind of refine that?
We could maybe say something like 60 to 100, and we can
Yeah.
refine it somewhere in that ballpark.
I move that we authorize staff to apply for the Minnesota DNR Relief Community Forestry Grant Program for between 60 and 100,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, item number 6, we have a change order for improvement 21-12, North Brainerd reconstruction, and this is Mr. Dean again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So kind of two parts to this. So attached to the request is change order 4 for the North Brainerd reconstruction project. We brought a similar change order previously requesting additional granular borrow material on phase 1 due to thicker than expected concrete under the existing roadway. While we were able to avoid this on phase 2, there was still some additional issues with the concrete on phase 3 that did require some more fill material to build the roadway to grade. In addition to that, paving's been completed on phase 3, and the roadway is now open to public traffic. At this time, the contractor's needing to stabilize the new topsoil placed on phase 3. So included in your packet is a memo explaining the challenges on phases 1 and 2, and the discussions with the contractor for approaches on phase 3 for seeding. Based on the discussions with the contractor, staff's recommending the temporary seed on phase 3 to readdress when conditions are more appropriate for permanent seeding. But we're really looking for more direction on how the council would like to see us address seeding on phase 3.
Okay. You guys understand that, the difference there? So we're looking at, do we want to put temporary seating down, or continue with the same type of seating with the hydro seating? One or the other has to be done. We can't leave it black dirt through the winter and then plant permanent seating. And we have to choose one, or have the contractor choose one. And I think with the seating that we've put down this year in that area, I think it would be better to try to use the temporary seating. It's fairly cheap. It's just ryegrass. It'll look like grass until it freezes, and then it'll die out and be brown just like the rest of the grass until spring, and then we can have them come back and seed with the real seed in the springtime, and that should be, as long as we get rain next spring, we should be okay.
The ryegrass will just go away after 1 year, right?
Right.
Okay. I would move that we go with that option. I'm sorry, you might,
Nope, that was,
I will
you
go
couldn't
with-
tell I was nodding.
okay. Option 3 is that, the ryegrass?
No.
Mr. Dean, were you gonna answer that?
I just looking for clarification on that and the change order.
And the change order
The change order request for additional borrow,
for additional,
fill material.
oh, did we not already?
No, this is more.
There's two things here, correct?
Correct.
Right, but we
Yep.
already did have them use that fill, so
Yep.
we
So
kinda
this
don't have
is,
much
this
of
is
a
asking
choice
for
to
additional fill.
pay for it.
Okay, I better,
Last time we did this, I believe it was more like 20-some thousand worth of fill, wasn't it?
I think it was about 32,000. So
Yeah.
this is about a third of that
So a
additionally.
lesser amount of concrete that had to be removed and then filled back in with.
okay, I'll let you take it.
Okay, so I will move to approve change order 4 in the amount of $9,991.80. And direct staff to proceed with the temporary seed for this year.
Second. Thank you.
Is this, I know we talked a little bit last week, Jesse, is this going to include any of the other areas that have been seeded based on how much we get as far as the temporary seeding?
I'm
Around
just
the park?
requesting phase 3, but if the council would like to do other areas, we'll be glad to do it.
What would a cost difference roughly be compared to just phase 3 or going back and putting rye seed in for phase 1 and 2?
Probably a few $1,000s.
How do you guys feel about it? Have you been by there? You see
Several times.
what that looked like, Jeff?
I would amend the motion
Okay.
if, is that appropriate? You're the,
You can move to amend it and I'll second your.
I'll move to amend the motion to include the other areas to not exceed 3,000?
Okay, I'll second the amendment. And we vote on the amendment.
Vote on that.
I will, okay. Any more discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now the actual motion
As amended?
as amended, and any more discussion on that? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Okay, I just have one question. Jesse, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Jesse.
already voted, but-
Well. Are we looking at about 3,000, you said? Is that a good estimate?
That's just a quick ballpark. I really don't know offhand. I'd have to do some
We
calculations
got
to
less
find
than
out
a
how
minute
much.
per item.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 7, discussion on rental dwelling license board of appeals. Mr. Kravit, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff would like the Safety and Public Works Committee to hold a discussion on the appeal process for denial or revocation of rental licenses. Currently, if a dwelling fails to meet licensing standards, the staff can bring it to City Council for consideration of denying or revoking. Currently, if it would be denied, the owner has the opportunity to appeal the decision to the Rental Dwelling License Board of Appeals. That board has no members to it. So with this, staff would like to have discussion, and staff is recommending that the Safety and Public Works Committee become the review board. I do believe that there is a potential that there would be some denied at the next renewal, which would be in the springtime. So this is something that certainly should be considered.
So move to follow staff's recommendation on this item, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? I think it's got to be either here, general counsel, or planning and zoning. I think this is appropriate, so I agree. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Again,
Aye. Motion passes. All right, number 8, final item of the night for Safety and Public Works. We have direction on active code enforcement cases. Mr. Kramvik, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is bringing 5 properties before SPW tonight. First the one is 1623 Emma Street. A number of junk and debris items in the yard, couches, chairs. They've received $600 in open citations, so staff is recommending obtaining a search warrant and abating the junk and debris. Next is 1005 3rd Avenue Northeast. This one's a repeat offender. We have already abated $800 worth of junk and debris at this site. This is for outdoor storage. There has been additional junk and debris as well, which would be covered by outdoor storage. So again, staff recommends obtaining a search warrant and abating all violations of outdoor storage. The next one is 915 Laurel Street, which is also an ongoing repeat offender, because this one, this one's junk and debris, so it does have to go to Safety and Public Works. They received their $300 because it was abated within 1 year. Staff is recommending obtaining a search warrant and abating the junk and debris at this property. 823 Willow Street has received 1 notice of violation letter and 2 citations, so that they did receive the 3rd one today. This is the last property that did not renew their rental license. So with that, staff recommends a $300 citation every month while not in compliance, and recommend legal action from the city attorney. And then the last property is 701 4th Street South. They received 1 violation letter for short-term rental as well as non-rental license. And they've also received 1 citation because this is a health and public safety matter, because there is no rental license at this property. Staff brought it before Safety and Public Works for consideration. Recommends a $300 citation every month while not in compliance, and recommend legal action from the city attorney.
is that Southwest 4th Street?
It is.
Okay,
All right. You guys have any questions about any of those?
a dozen. Okay. I've read through them. I'm good to, I move to move forward with staff's recommendation on all, there's 6 or 5?
5.
Five of these properties.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We can